in marriage, having the conversation without the fight.
Yes.
This is like a goal. This is something, it's a dream. It's something that people strive for.
For some people, it's the BHAG. It's the big, hairy, audacious goal, right?
Oh my gosh. You've got a lot of weird acronyms.
I do.
But we're really excited to be talking to you about this. This is our second webinar on this topic because it is such a hot topic. I think we really hit some buzz points. And last time we did this, people were really giving us a lot of great feedback that they were very appreciative of the tips and the languaging, you know, so we're just to kind of lay some ground. We do have Chris Miles, the cash flow expert, and I'm Melissa Terry, founder of Be Your Own Business Owner and Live Enlightened. So we love to talk to you about your mindset. We love to talk to you about the way that you leverage choice and accountability and how we give you the best tools to be able to create leverage so that what you're doing is producing greater results in your life. So today that is all going to be focused around money, specifically in your marriage, being able to have these conversations, have a relationship with both without there being any, what was it that you called? The
fight?
Definitely without the fight, because we know that our words, our energy, all affect our life.
Absolutely.
So if we have lots of angst and anger and resentment and to the point where we feel like we can't talk about money, or we don't know how to talk about money with one of the most key people in our lives, it makes it difficult to get into a creative space or an open space or an abundant space. And we know that so many of the people that we work with and so many of you who are on this webinar with us today are heart-centered entrepreneurs or conscious entrepreneurs or just conscious and heart-centered people, even if you're not an entrepreneur. And
you at least have a heart.
Yes, you do.
We hope.
And you want this kind of possibility. How do we do this? So that's what we're going to be talking today. We're going to be drilling Chris today about how do we do this and is this actually possible? And we are anticipating going to give us some great tips and actually give us a money dictionary.
A money dictionary?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it.
Except I told you I hate writing. Now you're telling me I have to write a dictionary now?
Yes.
Oh, that's
it's okay.
wonderful.
It doesn't have to be as big as Webster's.
That's right.
So, Chris, tell us what the hottest points are when you talk to your clients. You've been doing this for years. You get into finances, inevitably that invites you into people's relationships and a bunch of other stuff that I'm sure was not part of what you anticipated knowing about their lives. But when we get into money, it all seems entangled. Yeah. So what are the hottest points?
And can I just start out by saying that nobody's marriage is perfect?
Oh!
I thought mine was once, but I was totally wrong. You know, come on. Like, that's the thing, is that nobody's perfect. We're two human beings trying to come together, imperfect people trying to come together to create a great marriage, right?
Yeah.
And that could definitely be a difficult time. And then you throw the whole thing of money on top of it, which is not emotional for anybody at all, right? You throw that on top of it, and it just complicates things. And typically, what I've seen from working with hundreds and hundreds of clients is that usually one of two things usually happen. One is they avoid the topic completely. You know,
sounds like
if you just don't talk about it, it just doesn't create any fights. We stay happy, we stay married, so we just keep money out of it, and unless it comes to bill time, and then it keeps coming back in, but we keep trying to push it out. It keeps coming in, and we keep pushing it out, right?
So is that what we call the toddler approach? You know, the 2-year-old that covers their eyes because if I can't see you, you can't see me.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay, so we've got the toddler approach.
Yep. So there's a toddler approach to money. I'm sure there's a few toddlers on here, right? And then there's the approach where people, they do discuss it, but it tends to be a really hot topic. It really ends up being a heated debate, right?
Yeah.
And so they still talk about it, but usually it'll end up being one person just dominates the finances, and the other one just kind of ends up being on the sidelines a little bit.
So one almost tends to railroad, or it's like in order for the marriage to work, I have to be passive.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So they're still talking about the money, but they're not.
Yes.
And they might even talk about it a little bit, but it's not to the degree that it should be, especially an abundant conversation, right?
Yeah.
There's scarce conversations about never enough, that there's a lot of blame and things passed back and forth. So they'll still have the conversation. It just won't be a positive.
It's just not necessarily a productive conversation.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so the cool byproduct of what I've had, like even though I show people how to create cash flow and do those kind of things a lot,
Yeah.
and yeah, we've found people $30,000 or more a year, but
that's always good.
That helps a marriage a little bit, right?
It does.
Definitely release some stress. But the one thing they'll say is beyond that, the one thing they kept saying, and this happened at one of my events last year, every single couple up on stage said, and I brought them up because they had big results, right?
This sounds like quite
some more than others. One of them was almost there to get the results, so they were newer. So I was like, that'll be a good balance of people that have different experiences. Well, they all said at the same time, they all said, well, this saved our marriage. This really helped our marriage. And I thought, that's cool, but let's get back to the money. Like, tell people about how awesome it really is, right? We're like, Chris, that was great, but the marriage piece, that you can't put a price tag on, and that was really big for us.
Great.
And so now I just stopped fighting it. Now that's why I want to bring this up, because there is a language with money that has to come out. We have to talk differently about money. We have to see money differently. We have to basically treat money in a very different way.
Yeah.
And in a way that actually becomes more fun, more engaging, and a lot less stress, right?
Yeah, and I love that new perspective, because so often we get to the point, or we've been in the point where it's like, oh, we got to talk about the bills, or we've got to talk about money, and does it ever feel like, oh, this is exciting, I'm so excited that we get to talk about our money today. And that is a great, I love having visuals to hold on to.
Absolutely.
And that's a great visual. I choose for that to be a possibility in my life.
That's a great choice. I like that choice.
I like that choice too. Woo, I get a gold star today.
That's right. So one thing I want to bring up is that cash flow creates freedom, right?
Yes.
It's not cash in a bank or cash in an IRA or 401k. It's cash flow. Okay. And so as a couple, one thing to help relieve that stress, and like I mentioned, is finding ways to free up cash flow, right?
Yeah.
Many people will try to focus on where they're not in their marriage versus where they are. And many people usually look at their bank account balances as the determination of how well they're doing, right? And I have to tell you that that's not always an accurate measure.
Yeah.
I've seen people in their marriage having lots of money in the bank and still on the brink of divorce because it doesn't mean anything. It's about cash flow. And so this is not so much the focus for today, but definitely those of you that want to get some free tips on this, there's an ebook online, moneyripples.com. If you haven't downloaded it already, please go do so. So moneyripples.com's got that. If you don't know how to spell Money Ripples, it's right on top of the screen there. Here, let me underline it for you. I'm going to just use the pen. Ta-da!
Oh, yay!
We'll make a super box around it. You cannot tell my mom is a professional oil painter by the way I'm drawing. There you go. No, absolutely not. So
good job. You get a gold star today too.
That's right. So here's the first commitment I want you guys to do as a couple. Now, whether you're married or you're about to get married, one big thing is to make sure you meet together once per week.
Okay.
One of my friends, Dina Watt, talks about financial infidelity.
That was the word. I love
that.
That
was the word you're looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Financial infidelity. Most people are a financial infidel.
You just say
I just like to say infidel.
And you can't say it without an accent.
No, you can't. And that, especially when it's a horrible accent on top of that, right? So financial infidelity means that you have some sort of secret about your money that your spouse doesn't know. There's something you're not communicating, whether intentionally or not, right?
And it's interesting because the other morning I actually heard a radio show about this. They had people calling in to confess their financial infidelities. Now, they didn't use that word, but that was the gist of the show. And what is the biggest, infidelity that you've committed?
With your money?
And somebody had bought out their spouse.
That's a hard one to hide,
That is. Apparently, they're putting a lot of energy into this.
Unless they left in the dock in the bay, so maybe the spouse never saw it.
Maybe.
That's crazy. So financial infidelity, be able to be on the same page with your spouse. That's one side benefit I've seen a lot of people get as they work with me. They said, finally, we're on the same page. I had one of my clients say, he was like, man, we've been married for almost 35 years now. We've been married, we're in our mid-50s. We've been married for years. Our kids have kids.
Yes.
And our kids have never seen us communicate together on the same page, especially about money. And they hadn't either. They'd avoided that topic up until this last year. And they were one of those couples at that last event, right? And so to be able to get them on the same page and talk about money and not, tear each other's throats out,
was a huge accomplishment.
No hair pulling and stuff. Nothing like that. And so it was really good. They didn't avoid the topic like they always had. Now they could be on the same page. We were actually able to get him to retire from his job and start his new business and just be able to work on that cash flow they had, which is really
that's
awesome to see that them happen that way. And that would never happen had they not communicated about it.
Started talking about it.
Because imagine if he just quit his job and they didn't know where they were financially.
Right.
Holy cow.
Or he didn't quit his job and he worked for another 15 years because he didn't realize that he could.
He could have. Exactly.
Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you continue to keep your head in the sand, you have no idea. And things will never get better by burying your head in the sand.
Exactly.
And I think that's the word, because, you know, with the work that I've done with people, and mine doesn't center around money, but inevitably when you get into personal things, that comes up. And often, whether it's money or something else in our lives, we don't want to look at it because there's fear around it, we're ashamed of it, we're embarrassed about it, we don't know what to do about it, or it feels bad, there's all these judgments. And so for some backwards reason, we think, okay, it's the toddler in us. If I don't look at it, it will go away. I don't know what to do, so somebody just, you know, take care of it, make it go away. That will always make things worse. And so it's having the courage to be able to look at things, because even you just being willing to look at something means that it's going to get better.
That's right. Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's a law of attention, right? Whatever you put your attention towards expands and grows. Whatever you ignore will leave you. Yes. If you ignore your money and your relationship, imagine what's going to happen to your relationship and your money.
Absolutely.
Or your relationship with your money. I mean, it goes both ways, right?
Yes.
So
you've got us meeting once per week.
Yeah. So set that time in your calendar. Set that time once per week.
Okay.
Make it a regular recurring scheduled appointment as much as possible. And this could be, and this doesn't have to be long. It could be 15 to 30 minutes. Usually not more is required. There is something I'm going to give you here for the first week, a little action item that will take a little bit longer, potentially. But for this is normally like how you go and update your numbers. I always tell people to track their money and get on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Most people never take the time to do this. People will spend more time with their kids than they will with each other, I've noticed.
Yes.
Having 5 kids of my own, notice I like held up 2 hands because it feels like 10, but 5, just 5. 5 of my own, it feels like that. And so
was that a prediction?
It better not be. I think we're done, you know, so we'll see. But yeah, it's really wonder what's going to happen, or you're going to have those things pop up, right?
Yeah.
And so having that time. For my wife and I, it's early Sunday morning before the kids are kind of rolling out of bed. And if they do, we're like, great, go in front of the TV, you know?
Yeah.
Go to your babysitter. So we'll try to have that time where we plan the week. We'll talk about what's going on with the money and stuff. So if there's anything big coming up, we want to make sure that we can mention, oh, by the way, I'm planning to actually go buy this week.
Yeah.
So then, you know, for example, if you have $300 that you know you have extra in your account, and then you're like, well, sweet, I've been waiting to buy this. And so the husband buys, you know, whatever, golf clubs or something. I don't know, I don't golf. But maybe it's something like that.
Yeah.
And then the wife's like, "Oh, great, awesome! Like we need to go get some extra clothes for the kids' school shopping and stuff, right?" And then you both spend $300. Next thing you know, you're in the hole $300. And then there's stress, there's fights, and hair pulling, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
So we want to make sure we're meeting once per week, that we're doing this in a very calm manner.
Yes.
And doing this in a way that's really productive. Now.
I was going to say, now you're going to help us know what to say and how to say it in these meetings, because if we've been in this angst and this frustration about money, you're saying, okay, schedule a meeting together, and both people in the couple may be going, and then all of a sudden, you know, somebody's getting sick, or oh, I've got another meeting, you know, we find excuses not to go to that meeting. Exactly. So how do we turn it from that energy to, I'm so excited we get to talk about money this morning?
Exactly. You're laughing. You're like, I can't wait to say that, right?
I know. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to talk about our money. Well, it comes from scarcity or abundance, right?
Okay.
You know, there's definitely 2 differences. And so I'm going to ask you on this webinar here, go ahead and type in the chat box, how would you first define scarcity? What is scarcity to you?
Yeah, so the chat box is down at the very bottom of the screen. And we really appreciate your input. And this is going to be recorded. People are going to be watching this later. So your words are going to connect not only with you, but with the other people that are going to be on this, if they're just listening to it because they couldn't be online. So those of you who are online, get on the chat box and be the voice of the people.
So in your own words, what is scarcity is the question, right? Yeah. What is scarcity?
Yeah, and scarcity, man, just saying the word, like you can almost feel it. I feel like
I'm
withering.
Like I feel scarce. Just talking about scarcity.
I know. Right? It's like, okay, can we move on and start using higher energy words?
That's right. Well, I see people typing. We got several people typing right now.
So we've got people coming in here.
And it could be just quick words or phrases that you think of or emotions that come up.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tracy says, fear of not having enough, whatever enough is.
Yes.
Lisa says, scarcity is being scared or not having enough. Same thing. Lack of income, future options. So lack, right? So it's usually never enough, and lack is a pretty big thing. It's scarce, right?
Yeah, and I love how Tracy emphasized that, whatever is enough, because it's this elusive goal. It's like that thing where, oh, well, I'll do that when I get to this point, or when I get to this point, and it's never now.
It's the fallacy of enough.
Yeah, because you go, okay, well, once I have a job, well, once we have $10,000 in our savings account, once we, buy our first investment property, once, and you just keep pushing it out. Yeah. Is anybody else feeling icky just talking about it?
I hope you love this conversation.
But here's the thing is that this is what happens. This is how a lot of people are thinking and interacting with money. And almost sometimes, I know for me, because I teach abundance, I live abundantly, and I find myself in times where it's like, wait a second, it almost feels like that scarcity thing sneaks in, and it's like a cycle that it's like, I don't know how I got in this, and I'm not sure how to get out of it. So it's not just necessarily the people that are walking around that you bump into, are in your life that are always negative about everything.
Absolutely.
But we're surrounded in our culture by a lot of scarce thinking.
We do.
I mean, you've mentioned that before about people who come to you and they've been getting advice from other counselors.
Scarce people.
Yeah.
Every advice you hear on the radio, on TV, is all rooted in scarcity.
Yeah.
Always rooted in scarcity. They're always about how you need to stop spending money, right? Just stop spending money. You can never save enough. And even if they tell you this is how much you need to save, if it's not enough, it's your fault, right? So now you're being blamed for their advice that you took to a T. They're also telling you to do things like sacrifice, right?
Yes. Ooh, that's another one of those words.
A lot of S words. We won't mention some of the other S words with scarcity, right? So it's all about sacrificing and suffering, not spending, saving and saving and saving, right?
Yeah.
Deferring, never living life now. Right. It's always about someday.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's about barely getting by. Save this much money. Well, if you didn't have enough money, it's because you spent it, or you're too frivolous, or whatever, all those words and judgments that go along.
Well, they'll blame people and say we're a whole consumer. We're in this big consumer mentality, which is true to some degree. But they'll say, oh, well, everybody's just a bunch of spenders, and that's why you're in the situation you're in. Right. Not everybody's that way.
No, it's not.
A lot of savers, and they're doing it, but it's never enough. Right?
But neither one of those things is in cash flow, because because you have money and it's stagnant, it's having a river that flows into a pond and it just sits there and molds.
Exactly.
That was a great visual.
I love that. Well, yeah, exactly. It's like if there's no flow, it just gets stagnant. Like Great Salt Lake is one of the ugliest places on earth.
Maybe Utah Lake, but
Utah Lake. Actually, water ski or jet skied on there, so
that's scary.
It stunk really bad. It's great. I had a shower twice. So anyways, so that's scarcity. Now I'm going to ask everybody here on this now. That's we know what scarcity is. We know all advice comes from scarcity.
Yeah.
What is abundance? Okay. So now type in the chat box, what does abundance mean to you? What are some words that you see with abundance, or how would you define that? So go ahead and type that in right now.
Yeah, and especially I think, emotional words.
Yes.
How does it feel to be abundant? Because like we said, there's a lot of ways that scarcity can look, or abundance can look. Like you said, it doesn't matter whether couples have money in the bank or not, or they're financially solvent or not. It's about this, what's the emotion behind it?
Exactly.
Right?
And it's almost always emotion. I mean, even with the scarcity responses, it's actually a perception. It's not even real.
No, because you have people, I mean, how many times have we seen people, I know I've run into people that can be seen as being very, very, very poor. And they're so happy. Yeah. They have everything that they want, and it's all this perspective.
Which is great. So lots and lots is one of the answers. It feels happy to have abundance. It feels happy to have enough to give to others.
Absolutely.
So not only do you have enough for your own needs, you feel like you have enough for everybody else. You can share. There's enough and to spare.
Yes, and it's that overflow principle.
Yeah.
Because even, and I think this is one of those keys, because part of that scarcity I've seen is that judgment that, oh, I have to be a giving person, and in order to be a giving person, I have to give away everything that I have, or most of what I have. Yeah. But the thing is that if we see ourselves we talk about filling ourselves up or taking care of ourselves, and when we ignore that and we're just skimming everything off the top to give to everybody else, we continue to be empty.
Right.
And that perpetuates scarcity. Whereas if we go against that, and as I like to teach, the art of selfishness.
And
It's,
Ayn Rand?
No.
Oh, no, that's the virtue of selfishness.
Oh,
sorry.
No, I didn't know
Different
about
book.
that. But yes, she and I
an
seem to
art.
be on the same page. So this whole art of selfishness is about filling oneself up first, because once we do that, then we are what animates our life. We are what make our life possible.
Yeah.
So if we're not full, we have nothing to give or nothing to do.
Exactly.
So this is the best way to be philanthropic.
You can't fill somebody else's water glass if you have no water in your pitcher, right?
Exactly. We've also got gratitude for what I have, which leads to increased resources, abundance to an exercise of the mind. Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with all those. Great words. Thank you so much for sharing.
Now, let's talk about what that really is and how that shows up, because here's where the couples fight the most.
All right.
Because if you haven't noticed already, I mean, I've been only married for 12 years, right? But I've kind of noticed that we have different perspectives a little bit coming into a marriage about money, right? Have you ever noticed that?
Can't imagine.
You might have been raised a little bit differently than the other person. And so a lot of people I coach, they're usually opposite ends of the spectrum. And usually they're both rooted in scarcity. So usually I have one person on the one side that's a spender, the other side is a saver.
Yes.
Right? Spenders, what do they do best?
Spend.
Exactly, right?
Shop.
They spend, they shop. If there's ever extra money given, they want to figure out how they can go and use it right now.
Yes.
Or pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? It may not be today, but it might be soon.
Yes.
And so money flows in and flows out. The problem is that it's harder to flow back in. So there's a lot of flow, but it usually flows out a lot. It's almost like somebody's pumping water out instead of accepting the water and let it just run out naturally, right?
Yeah, and part of that too, I've heard you talk about is that it's coming from this space where if I don't spend it now,
exactly,
then it's not going to be there to spend. So it's always the scarcity mentality of there is no money, so I got money and I
got to use it for something I want. Yeah. It's that fear mentality, right? It's always fear. Either of these two paradigms are fear-based, right?
Of course.
Because when you're spending, you want to get rid of it now. Like, hey, if I don't spend on something I want to, I just know, because this always happens, right? The kind of belief systems.
Yeah.
It always happens that if I don't, it gets spent on a new wash machine, or the car breaks down, or something else happens. So I'm going to spend on something I want right now versus spend it on something kind of responsible or boring.
Yeah. Which, in addition to fear, that also comes down to some level of control.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and especially if they had a really controlling parent that was the opposite, that was a hoarder.
Super
saver. So there's saver you see there on the right-hand side. It's like go the other extreme, and it's like, hoarder, right? It's like keep going down that spectrum.
Yes.
This is like what I was raised with. I was raised with a hoarder and a spender. So it was this is why I'm so confused.
So did they just stretch you so far that you just landed in the middle?
It pretty much. I kind of veered more to the saver side, because I saw results. I was like, well, if the two scarcities, savers still look better. But I still had that spender in me too, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is that even the saver mentality is out of fear, because Tracy brought up about there's never enough, right?
Yeah.
That is like the calling card of the saver.
Yes.
It's never enough. You can never pay off enough debt. Like even as long as there's $1 left on a credit card or even on a mortgage. They're in bondage, right?
Yes.
They put themselves in like self-imprisoned scarcity. Like, don't you dare open these doors. I do not want to come out, right? Yeah. It's that kind of scarcity.
Well, and our poster child is Scrooge McDuck, right? I mean, that's what I always think of when we get into the guy
that like swims through his own gold, right?
Yeah, but it's not enough. I cannot give you a penny.
That's right. Exactly. I can't afford to even give you a penny. No. So lots of I can't afford comes out of their mouths, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we've never heard this before, right?
Nobody's ever said that.
Nobody's ever said that growing up, especially if you had depression mentality type parents, right, or grandparents.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, because you talk about parents or grandparents that grew up in the depression,
right,
and then you get the baby boomers after that, right, and that generation kind of swung to the other side.
They kind of became more spenders.
And the spenders, we want to have fun, we want to live our life, we're tired of our hoarder parents.
Right.
I don't want to have to save the potato peelings to
Right.
try and scrub the floor later.
I don't want to make flatbread Coke or flat Coke bread or whatever it is, because that Coke's 2 years old, so you got to use it somehow. Don't waste it.
No.
Waste not, want not.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a great one. Let's not get into the
I learned that one
yet.
in Utah. That was a new one for me.
Oh,
so,
well, there you go. Yeah, that's not one I choose to hold on to.
Nope, neither.
So now we've come in 2007
Mm-hmm.
was another economic downturn that was
That's right.
deep as the Great Depression. So are you seeing that we're breeding a whole new set of savers?
Oh, absolutely.
Hoarders?
Well, and Generation X is already kind of going that direction.
Really?
They're saying the baby boomers are idiots. That was kind of their mentality. Like, they're idiots. They're morons. They use Dr. Spock to raise people. I mean, come on. Actually, that was probably the prime lifers too. But they're just like, you know, their stuff didn't work. You know, even our grandparents had it better figured out than our parents did.
Yeah.
So so that's why the whole Generation Y. But a lot of them are starting to lose hope. Like, they're almost focused on the here and now a lot too. And there's
so
a lot
you're
of
almost
fear.
seeing a split.
Yeah, there's almost a
Interesting.
divulgence, right, or a diversion, not a diversion, but a
Divergent?
divergence, yeah, something like that. It's got a D-I in it. I know that's the word.
D-I-V, it separates things.
Yeah. So those are two scarcity mentalities that most people will buy into.
Yeah.
In the middle is a steward. A steward takes the best of the spender and the best of the saver and puts them together.
That sounds
So
beautiful.
no matter where you are, you can come into the middle. Right?
Okay.
Because the spenders, like I said, they spend money really well, and that's good. Problem is, it just doesn't come back because they keep spending it. They blow it, essentially, right?
So if I've been a lifetime saver hoarder, if I've been a lifetime spender, you know, I just have to go and shop.
Yep.
Is there hope?
There is. Absolutely hope.
So no matter how many years, because you were talking about how you just worked with this couple.
Yeah.
They've been married 35 years. They've been doing this, even just if we want to look at the years they've been in their marriage.
Oh, yeah.
At extreme opposites of each other.
Exactly.
Head in the sand.
Yep.
And they came out and they're doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
the
wife was a saver, he was more the spender.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. I had to get her to see more of let money go. And not let it go in a way that it's being wasted.
No, but get into flow, right?
Yeah, get into flow. You know, to see how we can put money to use. How can we create cash flow with that money instead of just letting it sit there and become stagnant, like the Salt Lake or the Utah Lake, right?
No moldy ponds.
Yeah. For him, we had to be able to get him to say, you know what, let's slow down. Let's get you to think a little bit before you act.
Okay.
And that's big. And you got to be careful because I had another couple out in Minnesota, actually. Yeah, I didn't say it with an accent.
I was waiting.
I do have family from there, but but that's because my family says it like Minnesota.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now we can move on.
But now we can move on. Yeah, so this couple, same thing. He was a doctor. He was 62 years old, and he was a complete hoarder. And even worse, his business was spiraling downward. And I remember he had $500,000 in an IRA. And I said, you know what, we could actually use $100,000 of this and make you an extra $50,000 a year. How would that be?
Wow.
And he's saying, yeah, but how am I going to retire? I'm like, wait, 100,000 or 500,000 to make 50,000 a year. You're hoping and praying for maybe 20,000 a year, 25,000 a year, if you're lucky, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying 50,000 a year is not good enough, right? From 100,000, the other 400,000 is still there.
Yeah.
And it took his wife smacking around and say, honey, don't you see?
Yes.
But because that scarcity was overwhelming, he couldn't see it. When we got time to be more of a steward to say, hey, wait, I can use this money, I can let it go.
Yeah.
Not in a wasteful way, but in a way that's productive.
Yeah.
And let it come back, then it increases.
So it is possible, there's hope, and you're going to give us tools and language to say, do these things, and know that it feels scary at first. It feels like taking a risk. You're stepping off of a cliff because you've been huddled, out of that emotion.
Right.
But these are things that do work, and the more that you do them, the more all of that other energy shifts, because that, like you said, I mean, he was even a businessman. You can show him logistically and statistically, here's the numbers don't lie, and we can be blinded by our own fear.
Exactly.
And so doing these things repeatedly and trusting and taking that leap means that you have the opportunity to step into a place that you've never been before, which means that you have the ability to create abundance that you've never had before, and to have excitement in talking about money with your spouse like you never have before.
Exactly.
And that's exciting.
You seem excited.
I am excited.
I love how you say, statistically, logistically,
Yeah.
systematically,
Yes.
grammatically.
Yes. Oh, that reminded me of the end of Pirates of the Caribbean. That was so funny. All right, we're gonna move on.
So let's talk about what to do in your very first meeting.
Okay, so our first assignment is to schedule this meeting to happen every week.
Yeah.
And now you have special instructions for the first meeting.
Exactly. Even if you've done this meeting before, maybe if you've listened to what I've taught before, you might already be doing this. Yeah. This is good. Backpedal a little bit for this meeting, and this could be something that's outside of this normal meeting too. This could be a date night, a good date night, right? As we talked about last week.
Yes.
It could be a very positive one. It could be a date night, or it could just be quiet time in the house. Just some time where you can just get away and really talk with each other. So no distractions, right? So this is why you probably don't want to be going to some place like an Applebee's to have this date, right? You don't want to be going to Applebee's or a sports bar. You're like, hey, I love it. Like, Izzy's is great. And you're like, I can't hear you.
Go to a nice restaurant in a booth, go to a coffee shop, find a nice place in your home so that you can actually sit and talk and be uninterrupted.
Exactly.
Good.
And so the first thing you want to do, and you probably already have an assumption, but I want you to kind of get rid of the assumptions about your spouse or your partner because, you might have some not so good assumptions, right? Yeah. So here's the assumption that you don't want to have any assumptions. So instead, we want this to be more of a question and answer type of period. Ask them questions and listen to what they're really saying. So there's 3 specific questions I want you to ask here. So here's the first one. And by the way, if your spouse is not on this right now, the good news is we're recording this so you can actually show it to them later and actually get to this. And
nothing will get lost in translation.
That's right. And then you can you gotta hear Chris say Minnesota. Okay. So here's the first question that you ask them is, when I was a child, my parents thought money was blank.
And that actually might be somebody's answer.
Blank.
Yes.
Blankety blank.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was a child, my parents thought money was blank. Or my parents said things about money like blank.
Yeah.
Could be another way to say it.
And so while we start talking about this, get into the chat box and what are the first things that come to your mind? Either words or emotions, or like you said, these phrases. What are the phrases that you heard growing up? Now, you mentioned one that you discovered when you moved to Utah.
Which is the waste not, want not.
Yes.
Yeah, which
waste not, want not.
What is that? Like,
hold on.
Don't waste. Yeah, don't waste anything.
Everything must be used down to the
down to the kernel.
I have had a grandmother that was definitely on this hoarder mentality, lived through the Great Depression, and after she passed, we had to go through her house. And I'll tell you, we found a room that had a large portion of it filled with baggies that had been folded, that had been lightly used.
Like they had like crumbs of sandwiches in them still, right?
To be used later, amongst many other things that I won't mention on this. We can't afford it.
Yep. Great.
Hard to come by and must be appreciated. Yeah, a lot of the things that we're already saying. If new ones come to mind, keep writing those things.
How about that people with money are bad?
Oh yeah, all of the filthy rich,
the filthy lucre.
Yeah.
Right.
The idea that if they're rich, it means that they must have done something, out of integrity, or they must be, because money doesn't just come to good people. This is another belief. Is this whole I heard somebody describe it as the monk mentality, that in order to be philanthropic and good, that
you must do away with money.
Yes, you must not have money. Exactly. And again, that just cripples your ability to be about your purpose and your vision and be that heart-centered philanthropist that you are.
I used to hear things like, hey, what do you think? Money grows on trees?
Oh, yeah. Easy come, easy go.
Easy come, easy go, yeah. I can't afford it was definitely a big one, right? What was another one?
And I think that we can't afford it is when that can subtly slip into conversations, especially as you're talking with your kids and they're pulling on your, at the store, and I want this and I want this, and you say, no, we're not getting that, whatever. And you finally go, look, we can't afford it. It's like, I've got to tell them something, whether it's true or not, but it's one of those ones that's easy to slip in.
Totally.
What is and if you get into this later, that's fine. But
Yeah.
what is the turnaround for that? How do you talk to your kids? And just give us 1 or 2 language tips here.
We actually have that slide come up in a little bit.
Good.
So, yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, because that's a big one. Because teaching your kids is huge. Because you don't want to pass on the generations of scarcity talking and scarcity mentality, do we?
Yeah.
We want to make sure we're passing on a more abundant way of dealing with money.
Yes, and we know that that's not from not talking around or to your kids about money.
If you don't talk to your kids about money, someone else will. And it will usually be the other scarce people out there. It'll be other kids.
And that's part of I think that's a perpetuation of the scarcity mentality, is that, oh, well, I don't want to talk to my kids about money because I don't want them to have to worry about that.
Exactly.
Meaning that money is inherently a worrisome thing.
Exactly.
As you start, and as we're talking, just for yourself, start writing down on a notepad there for you, or typing it up on your computer, but things that you realize, because as you get kind of these most obvious and sometimes just ridiculous sounding ones, but you know that you've heard them, they exist somewhere inside of you, it means that you're peeling back the layers and you go, oh wait, I didn't even realize that this is actually coming from a scarcity mentality. One of my favorites is that I have a girlfriend who was going through and cleaning out her garage, and she's her kids are getting older, and so she's going to start having grandkids, and she had still saved like her kids' old high chair and a few things like that, and she caught herself because she realized I was thinking, oh, I'm going to save this so that I have it for the grandkids or whatever, and she stopped herself right there and said, I just realized that I am planning on being poor.
Yeah.
It's subtle things like that, and we cover it up by saying, waste not, want not.
Right.
We're being frugal. We're being
cheap. That's another word.
Or whatever that is. So write down all of the little or just ludicrous things associated with money, because it allows you to go down those layers and discover what are just those things that are really subtle that you don't realize are driving your money.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you. When I grew up hearing was a penny saved is a penny earned.
Oh yes.
And so I was always told to save everything, everything. So spending money on normal things was bad.
Yes.
And that came from that hoarder mentality that I got from one of my parents, right? Is that we don't even want to spend money. Now he would spend money on crazy things. He would like binge and purge.
Yeah.
So, save. He has like 10 years worth supply of Mrs. Butterworth syrup.
Oh.
That maple
is
syrup.
Definitely important. Granny wisdom. This comment just came in. Having some money in your pocket means you are never broke. It is better to have something. Don't spend your last dollar.
Interesting.
That is good. And see, that is one that I think could be subtly embedded into your belief system as something that's good.
It can be good, or that can be interpreted as being bad. Like, oh, well, I got to keep that dollar. And, don't ever let go of that dollar, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So it depends on how you interpret it through your lens. Are you more from a steward mentality, or are you coming more from that scarcity saver mentality? Excuse me.
Bless you.
So the second one. So that first one, make sure you ask your spouse and you answer it too. They need to both know.
Yeah.
The second one is, what are my biggest fears and concerns? This is a great one, and it usually stems from that first question.
Yeah.
What are your biggest fears and concerns? So go ahead and type that in right now. What are some of your biggest fears and concerns right now?
Around money.
Around money.
Around spending money, saving money, having money, growing money, being responsible, being a steward of money.
Right.
Yeah, those are always really interesting. And like Chris had mentioned, when you're having this meeting with your spouse, because when you're in such close relationship or you've been together for so many years, it's easy to slip into this space of like, yeah, I've heard all of your stories. I know all of your history. I know what you're going to say. And clear that space, because when you clear that space for your spouse, you always also clear that space for you too. Because you obviously know all of your stories and all of your background. But when you go in with that assumption, you block off the possibility of new things being able to flow into the space.
That's right.
So I like, whenever I sit down, whether it's in a one-on-one mentoring or in a group business meeting or anything, I always have people stop, let's take a few breaths, kind of shake out your body, because we have a tendency to really take things on. And to open up new space, take a few breaths with your feet flat on the ground, just close your eyes for a minute. And when you exhale, just imagine yourself blowing everything away.
Right.
So anything that may be filling you up, you just blow all of that away, because it creates this new space for new possibilities to flow in.
Exactly.
So Luis just said, following a budget is more about seeing where it went instead of planning where it will go. What do you think about that?
So is that the fear? Is that the fear, I guess, behind that? It's about seeing where it went instead of planning where it'll go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess always being hindsight, never forward thinking.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, which
Okay.
it's got to be. I mean, here's one thing too. This is kind of a big tip when you're dealing with your spouse and you're talking about money is don't always just look back.
Yeah, and Louise said, yes, this is about fear.
Because usually it's about blame when people look back. Usually isn't a good thing, right? Instead of trying to look forward. Now you want to learn, but when you're doing this meeting, you want to almost like hit the reset button, say, clear, right? Like delete. Maybe not clear. Clear's like,
Yeah. That was
your marriage might need that. I don't know.
That's a different course.
It's like clear.
Okay.
Yeah, but definitely, you want to make sure that it's something that's you're learning from the past, but you're not just blaming somebody for it. You're accepting them for who they are. You love them for who they are, because really, it's not our fault how we're raised with money. We were just raised it. That's the way we were given. If you were in your spouse's shoes too, I'm sure you would probably do about the same thing with money as they did. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that it just depends.
Well, we've also got Lisa that says, "What if something bad happens? I won't be prepared or have enough money."
Right.
How
am I prepared, right?
Exactly, which is definitely a fear mentality, and we know that if we're living in the fear that something bad is going to happen, our chances of something bad happening in our lives is going to increase.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to have that. We don't want to have that kind of like magnet that we're holding out to the universe, but it's definitely something that we're taught.
And by the way, to go along with that, avoiding the fear does not actually eliminate the fear or the occurrence from happening. In fact, it might attract it faster. I used to have people all the time, like especially when The Secret came out, I tell people like, okay, we're gonna make sure we have, when I work with clients, like I'm looking at everything, not just cash flow, but I'm looking at, do you have the right corporate entities in place? Do you have your estate plan done? Have you got all these insurance for life, disability, health, home, auto, liability, all that kind of stuff, right? Do you have all these in place, and is it enough?
Yeah.
Because most people will get underinsured when they meet with an insurance agent, because the insurance agent wants you to be underinsured. They believe it or not. It's kind of crazy, but they actually do. And people are like, I don't really like this conversation because I don't want to attract bad things to me. I'm like, you understand that we're doing this so you don't have to worry about those bad things happening, because turning a blind eye and ignoring it will not actually make it disappear.
Yes. And like you said, it's not about the things that you do. It's about why you're doing them. It's about the emotion with which you're doing them.
Yeah, if just that mere statement was out of scarcity. You're like, we got to eliminate that kind of mentality, because that is what's actually keeping you from making more money. Because you think you have to take more risk, create higher return to your business or your money. That's bull.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
We're going to cut it off there.
Bull.
So Sarah also says that, like Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, you never say we can't afford it. Instead of focus on how can we afford it. Set a plan, goal, and work towards it.
Exactly.
And this has been something really fun to start doing with my son. And to see him be really focused and like working and
get creative, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's been exciting. Tracy also says that there's a fear that I have moved from poor to prosperous. Will I ever move back to poor? So if we have crossed that threshold and there's like this lingering feel, like I can feel the cavern of poverty behind me, am I far enough away from it?
Tracy, just imagine if you were someone who retired in 2006 and was a millionaire, and then by 2008 you were an upside down millionaire, and you're teaching people how to become financially free, and then you had to turn that back around. Yeah.
That sounds like a personal story.
Fear. It's kind of a personal story. For details, see my video. No, yeah. So and that's a big thing that holds people back, because until I could release that fear, it was hard to move forward in a where you have ups and downs to be able to hit a much higher high. So and
we have you, thank you so much again for your input and for putting your comments into this. We are going to bring you out of this. We didn't bring you down into the depths of your money fears to leave you there.
This is where this comes out.
Yes.
So this is huge. This is one of my favorite questions to ask of all my clients, because this is where I know exactly what perspective somebody's in. If I had $250,000, I would blank. So answer this right now for yourselves and type this in. If you had $250,000 right now, what would you do with it? Would you say, okay, I'm going to pay off my debt. I'm going to just sock away the savings and just never touch it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a great vacation, or I'm going to go I'm going to go and invest it in this, or I'm going to do that, or what is it that you want to do with that $250,000?
Yeah. And what do you find a lot of times when you've got people that haven't been good stewards. They're living on kind of the outskirts in either saver or spender mentality. What's their reaction to this question a lot of times?
Yeah, I'll let a few people respond because I don't want them to influence or answer
Right.
too much. But it's very typical to hear things like I want to pay off my debt or pay off my house. I get that a lot. I get people will say, finally start traveling. I want to travel more.
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed that whatever people put is what they're not doing currently.
Yeah.
You know, which is funny because I'm like, trust me, I've been in that position where I said I just want to travel more when somebody asks me that question, and then I'm like, what do I do the other 48 weeks out of the year? You know.
Oh, see, my plan was just to travel all 52.
Just travel. Melissa's theme song is "On the Road Again" by Willie Nelson.
Yeah. So we've got Louisa, but to start saving for their kids.
Yeah.
I think this is great, and it's one of those things that you hear. If you just start a little bits for your kids when they're young, then you know the compounding and blah blah blah. And again, that is something based off of whether it's coming from scarcity or whether it's coming from abundance. Yeah. But that could be a good thing.
So that's more of a typical saver answer. Tracy, buy more houses and keep 100,000 liquid for opportunities that may come my way.
Fantastic.
Exactly. Invest in real estate properties. We got a lot of real estate people.
Like this happened last time. It was really interesting. Everybody, and I'm excited that you're on this kind of vein because it speaks to what you were saying. Instead of your money being stagnant, where can you put it that it's actually creating cash flow for you?
Right. Exactly.
And that comes from kind of an old adage of how is your money working for you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, I like Lisa's answer. So it used to be that I wanted to have money to pay off a debt or a house, but you mentioned taking 100,000 to make 50,000. That's what I want. Ha.
There you go. Smart woman. She's picking up fast. And here's the thing:
I don't blame you, Lisa.
Getting your mindset. You're responsible for your mindset. Nobody else can do that or change that for you. But when you get that, know that because in the past, I've always had the tendency to feel like I had to do everything myself or I have to have all the answers. Right. And you don't. There's fabulous people like Chris, that have this expertise. This is his area. This is his zone that can then, when you have the mindset to see it, because if you don't, you're going to not be able to even see what he has to offer. But when you have that mindset, then he can say, look, we've got this option or this option or this option. And it's like, I didn't even know that was possible. Yeah. And that's what's exciting.
Actually, somebody mentioned that earlier. They said scarcity is not having options or future, right? And that's why I tell people all the time that cash flow creates options, and options is what creates freedom, right?
And that is definitely one of those key ways to identify, are you coming from scarcity? If you ever feel like or have said the words, I don't have a choice.
Right.
That is the epitome of scarcity thinking.
Yep. Scarcity is either or.
Yes.
I can either have this or I can have that.
Yep.
I can't have both.
Living life in a space of ultimatum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those 3 questions, I hope those are really powerful for you, because I know every time I ask those, it's very enlightening. It really is. And those answers can change from time to time. Yeah. So even if you ask this once of your spouse, you might ask them again in a year or 2.
I was going to say, that could be actually a good yearly meeting.
Absolutely.
And it would be a great way, if you write these things down so that you're just taking notes, you come back in a year, and it'll allow you to get down other layers, but you may come to that meeting one year and realize all your bad money juju is gone.
So you remember when that $250,000 question we said a blender?
I know.
Or something like that, right? Wow, we've come a long ways.
Oh my gosh.
And actually, by the way, that's a good point too. If $250,000 is really hard to fathom, I know for a few people it might be, try 100,000. I mean, lower the number to make it a little bit easier. It still needs to stretch you.
And if 250,000 doesn't stretch you, stretch it to 500 or $1 million.
Yeah, absolutely. Jinx.
Oh dear, we've been doing these a lot, haven't we?
Oh boy. So let's talk about the words to avoid, right?
Okay,
and the words to use.
We're in the first meeting, and we've gotten our 3 questions. Now these are ground rules.
Yep, that is kind of
Yeah, good job, Mr. Bianchi.
That's right.
You didn't do it with chopsticks, though.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so ground rules, rules of engagement for your money conversations with your spouse.
Absolutely. So first words to avoid, or I guess this is more of a sound, is nt.
No nt.
Yeah, no nt.
You don't sound like the Ubuntu
Beatboxer.
tribe from Africa or something.
As we speak
Yeah,
Swahili.
don't beatbox.
Yeah, so no can'ts, don'ts, won'ts, shouldn't. Oh yeah, should is like one of the worst words in the world. Right?
Leave it out.
Leave it out.
Lose it.
Yeah, and I know for some people, like, you believe things are very black and white. Should is like it's like your go-to word, right?
Yeah.
Really avoid shoulding all over yourself.
Yes,
Because
please don't do that.
It really doesn't work.
And don't should over other people either.
Because usually, if you're that type of person, the person you married is not. If you say the word should, they will rebel. I'm just telling you from personal experience here. I'm the one that tends to rebel more than my wife, who shoulds everything. So avoid those kind of things of, should, can't, won't. So, Sarah had mentioned about not saying things like I can't afford it, right?
Yes.
Things that often end in a period, but instead, how can you make it a question?
Yes.
How can you make it more productive? We'll talk about that in a minute.
And this is going to take some time. It's going to take some adjustment. These first conversations may happen slowly as you start thinking more before you actually speak. But doing this will make a big difference, and it gets easier until it becomes just natural.
And hold each other accountable. Your spouse will love calling you out on your words. I'm sure of it. And
also do that using words that work. And be willing and open to receive that feedback. And in fact, I find that it helps to even just start those conversations with, I'm open to receive feedback. I'm working on my language. So if you hear something that I didn't catch, please. Because then when you've opened up and you both even just very verbally, consciously open up that space to say, I am open to your feedback. It puts you in a different space. It set that ground, and the other person doesn't, you get into this inner mindset that it's like, they keep calling me out and stuff, and they keep using these words and blah, blah, blah. And that just turns nasty.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, let's come to this both at the table really conscious.
I had one couple in particular that was really bad with this, where he'd be like, ha, you're wrong. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you, 10?
Yes.
You're 10 years old, and he's actually in his 50s. But I was like, oh my goodness, and this is the kind of guy that I had to chastise him for not opening the door for his wife at the restaurant, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, you got to be careful about how you go about doing this. But I love what you said. Invite them to say, no, please, I need help as well. And they may not want it, and that's fine, because I can guarantee when you change your language, theirs will follow too. It might take time, but it does influence them.
And so allow yourself to be in this new space, because a lot of times I find too that this happens in relationships because we, instead of trying to one up each other, it's like we're trying to one under each other. It's like, well, fine, if you're not going to do it, then I'm not going to do it either. Or if you're going to be that way, then I'm going to be this way too. And all you're doing is hurting yourself. Now, I know that can be really frustrating. I know that there could have been, pain in these conversations, and you're working and wanting to move forward. Regardless, move forward for yourself. Choose for yourself. Right. Regardless of whether they choose to start adopting this language, do you choose to start adopting this language? Whether they choose to start stepping out of scarcity yet, do you choose to start stepping out of scarcity? Because like Chris said, when you do, you open the space and increase the possibility of them being able to do it too. And you just happen to be the trailblazer. Yeah. And it takes courage, but know that this is what's going to serve you best, and start living your life from that space.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Good.
So yeah, great. Absolutely. This is all about choice, right? And perception. Even words are powerful, because words are where you start creation.
Yes.
Creation happens through words. So it starts with thoughts and words. And so you got to start changing the words as well to help with the thoughts.
Yeah.
Not enough is a big one. We know that's scarcity, of course, right?
Yes.
Don't say things like, oh, we don't have enough, or there's just not enough there, or we don't have enough money. Yeah. I mean, start saying things instead of saying, we're working on it, right? We're in the progression. We're actually working on it right now. Hey, we're getting there.
Yeah.
So there's a progression rather than not enough, I'm done, give up, pink slip, I'm done, I quit.
Yeah.
Right? Need. Don't say things like, I need to do this, I have to do this, right? Need or have to.
Yes.
Those are words you got to completely, these are one of the hardest ones to eliminate, because it's all over our language. People say this all the time.
Yeah.
You need to stop saying these things. So don't say.
Get to, and see, that's a really powerful word. That is one that enabled me to be able to let go of words like have to and need.
Right.
Is I started putting in choose to and get to. And just that subtle thing makes such a huge difference in how you perceive things, because it's like this subtle subconscious acknowledgement that I choose to do this, where
I want to do this.
Need and have to put you in a perpetual place of being a victim to your own life.
Right.
And that's not going to serve you in reaching abundance.
Definitely not. And then the one thing I mentioned this a little bit earlier, this always happens to me. This always happens.
Superlatives.
Yeah.
Always, never, things that are just absolutes.
Every time I get a little bit of money, I always lose it, or it always goes away, and we just never can quite get ahead, right?
Yeah.
Where you're just caught in this loop. It's like, yeah, that's an awesome place to remain stuck, but you will always be that way. You'll always be stuck there.
Yes.
If you keep using these kind of
And this
terms.
is one of the most empowering things, when you decide to pull your head out of the sand and start applying these kinds of rules, is that you, and being willing to look and receive feedback, being willing to go down the different layers, is you start to see, and it's unveiled to you, how you've created your life, how you've created your money situation, which means that it's empowering to know that, because it means you can create something different. So that's what I love. That's the most exciting thing to me.
Can I throw a little bonus on this one?
Go for it.
Because I was just, as you're talking, like I can definitely tell when I talk to people within a few minutes about money where they are.
Yeah.
It's very simple to see, because you can see where they're at, right? And one thing I would also say too is, even if they change the words, when you're changing your words, also make sure there's faith behind these words. There's belief really behind it, confidence behind it,
energy, emotion.
If you say like I'm not gonna say enough anymore, or I'm not gonna say I need to, so I want to do this.
And there's the eye roll. And
exactly.
Like, this is still coming from that victim mentality. It's like, this was really hard, and I really need to be acknowledged for this. It's like,
or we move to these. It's like the person that says, like, oh, things are great, they're awesome. But you're like, yeah, you're broke, aren't you?
It feels like there's a subfloor.
Like, yeah, I mean, like you can't try to trick yourself out of it, right? Now you can say things are awesome because I have this and this. You can be grateful for the one thing, even though there's 20 negative things. That's one thing I learned from Donald Trump, is that he would do that. That's how he got out of his huge thing. Because he didn't go bankrupt, but he was $900 million in debt, and dug out of it in 3.5 years to become a billionaire again.
Wow.
And so he actually broke the Guinness Book of World Records for fastest comeback of a billionaire.
Wow. And
he actually said, even if I had 20 negative things, like the whole world's collapsed on me, I find the one negative, even if it's like,
interesting.
I'm breathing.
Well, and this is something that I've just been reading, Marianne Williamson's The Law of Defined Compensation.
Oh, yeah.
And she's somebody that I really connect to, and so I wanted to glean from her, all of her words and her perspectives on money. And that is one of the things she said. This is not about being in denial or turning a blind eye to where you're at.
Exactly.
But it's knowing how to see, and if you're in debt and your house is going to be foreclosed on, and you've lost your job, and all of these things, it's the way that the words she uses is being able to see through the illusion of things,
right? Which
anything that is not love, or anything that is not abundance, is an illusion, because your pure state of being is abundance and joy and love and all of these things. How to speak to that. So last time you and I talked about speaking forward. Is that the phrase that you used? So using your words to say, look, this is what I'm creating, this is where I'm going, and I acknowledge where I'm at, because it's that whole thing of that if you call up a travel agent and you say, hey, I want to go to France, that's not the most important thing for her to know where you want to go. It's where you start.
Where you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's this balance, and I think that's
where you choose. It's where you put your focus and attention towards. Because there's always something amazing. The fact is, if you ever have words in the country, like phrases where you hear people say, I think I'm just going to take a sick day today, or things like, you know what, let's take a vacation, let's take a week off. Do you know how many people around the world that doesn't even register on their scale, right? Like, that's not even an option. I mean, even in previous generations, I mean, they would just work until they're dead. That was the expectation, right? To even say, I think I want to go travel for a week. Yeah. Even if it's in a car.
Right.
On a smooth paved road, without cliffs and jungles and snakes, right? Or things like that. I mean, that's like, air-conditioned vehicle. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Like, we live in a very abundant society, and it's funny how people are like, I'm so broke. It's like, no, you're not. Like, trust me, I know broke. I was there. And I've never worked with anybody more broke than I was. So that's good. That's why I don't judge you for it. So using abundant words like we mentioned earlier, powerful questions. Instead of saying I can't afford it, how can I afford it? What can we do to make this happen? There's more resolution. We're looking for solutions here than just simple statements of scarcity. Yeah. Right.
And I just want to add, as we go through these last few slides, if you have some burning questions, if there's things that you want to ask about, anything that we've talked about or anything we haven't talked about, as you're looking at starting these meetings with your spouse, these can also be meetings with your business partners or people that you do business with, coworkers. I mean, all of these things, anywhere that you are having money conversations or should be having get to be having money conversations.
That's awesome.
Oh, you caught me. Type them into the box. Feel free to interrupt us and we will stop and answer any of those questions. So we'll just go through these last few slides.
Yeah, that's awesome. So definitely powerful questions. Finding solutions. Looking for the how-to. Like I'll tell you, like one of the biggest questions I ever asked before was there was a guy doing a training on mindset type stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And
this fly is really excited about this abundance conversation.
The fly likes a lot of attention. You can't really see it. I'm sorry, you're just too small. You're insignificant.
Oh.
Where's Mr. Miyagi when you need it? So I'm sitting in that meeting, and the guy says, "All right, what does it take for these next 2 days that you're sitting in here with us? What is it worth to you to do this?" And I remember sitting there, I said, "You know what? I'm trying to figure out how to finish off my house and without pulling out a mortgage to do it. I'm like, I need $50,000. Yeah. I'm like, that will make this weekend worthwhile." Yeah. And I remember having that intention set. I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to get that? I'm like, that's pretty crazy. I've never asked for $50,000, and I needed it by the end of the week, right? And so finally, by that Saturday afternoon, the last day, it hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have the answer. Yeah. And I actually, I called them up. I called up somebody. I said, hey, I want to be able to do a quick loan. I'll pay you right back. Do this kind of thing. But I need $50,000 to finish off my house and build the equity, pull it out, do all that kind of stuff, right? And got the $50,000 by that next Wednesday. I was putting the check in the bank.
It was even early.
So I mean, the powerful questions are huge. If I had not even asked the question, said I can't get $50,000, I would have never forgotten it, right? Yes. So powerful questions are big, and that can having that can-do attitude. What can we do? Yeah. How can we make that work, right? Those kind of things. We can do this. We can make this happen. Yeah. We are making this happen, even, right? Just clearing it that way. Yes. You said choose, like we choose, or I want to do this. When my kids say, I remember one of my kids said they were wanting to buy something, I can't remember, ridiculous, right? It was something ridiculous, obviously, and he's like, is it because we can't afford it, Daddy? Oh. And I was like, no, we can afford whatever we want, but here's the thing, we don't want it. And honestly, I got other things I'd rather buy than that.
He's like, but Daddy, I want it.
Daddy, I want it. I'm like, great. How can you?
Get
it, right? and it's like, well, I guess I could do a lemonade stand. And they kept coming back with lemonade. So I'm like, great. Keep thinking of ideas. I love it when a kindergartner came home, or he was kindergarten. He's second grade or first. What is he now?
He's older.
Second grade. He's older, right? He's in second grade now. He came home and he's like, Mom, I have an idea. He's like, and he got these bad coupon books that you're supposed to sell for $30 each to your neighbors and your family, and you feel guilted because you got to donate. Yeah. Well, he brought them home. He said, I'm going to hire Izzy. I'm going to hire Megan. I'm going to hire this girl and Taya and all these girls. He started naming off. I'm going to hire them, and they're going to go knock doors for me and sell these books. I'm like, that's my boy. That was definitely not me in school, but that's awesome. I would have just knocked the doors eventually, but and be really shy. Will you buy my pepperoni stick? I sold a lot. It's amazing what a shy kid can do, So choose, right? And that you want it, right? Yeah. That we want this as a priority. Right?
And be willing to put the emotion. Allow yourself to get into a place of feeling excited and joyful about these possibilities. You've invested a lot of negative emotion into the other ones, and this is part of what magnetizes and draws these things to us. This is why, and I find, and I won't get into this, but I find that we are, as a humanity, are more willing to put energy into our negative emotions or err on the side of, caution. Wow. And we don't allow ourselves to go there with the powerful and with the exciting and with our deepest desires. Magnetize this with your emotion. If you don't want to, you can close yourself in a room by yourself and you can be excited there. If you don't want to do that in front of other people until it just becomes, again, second nature. But give yourself all of the, give yourself a leg up, give yourself all of the assistance that you can, and know that this is one of those powerful tools that you have is your own emotions.
And I have you ask this question with that. So what are you so afraid of? I mean, really,
Yes.
what are you so scared of? Because some people say, they're like, well, I'm just afraid we won't make it.
Yeah.
Well, I can guarantee you something. One thing that's never happened to you is that you have not made it. Because if you're surviving today,
yeah,
you're here.
Yes.
Right? I remember I heard in a book called 3 Feet from Gold.
Go ahead.
In 3 Feet from Gold, it actually said, there's a part where it says, God will never let you starve.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, yeah. And I remember at the time, like my wife and I were talking about, like, are we starving? Are we really starving? I'm like, no, we're not. Like, we're actually doing okay. So what are we so afraid of? And when I lost that fear, things turned around.
Yes.
Isn't that
the power
amazing?
of fear, the power of perception is incredible. And
It
so
is.
again, the reason that happens and the reason that's possible is because it is playing on universal laws, but you've been playing on, we'll say, the negative side of it, or the scarcity side of it.
Right.
Play on the abundance side of it. The rules are exactly the same.
Exactly. And so overall, when you're doing this, be nice.
Meeting with your spouse.
Yeah, be nice.
Be nice.
And be understanding, because we all come from different places. We're all at different stages. Granted, you being on this, you might be way further ahead than your spouse. You may not be. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, is be compassionate and be gracious.
And regardless of what's happened between you or where you may be, and maybe
mistakes.
Things are fine, or mistakes, past, blah blah blah. Leave that all behind and allow yourself to be in this place. I said start just by grounding. Set your feet on the ground, take deep breaths, blow everything negative or worrisome or fear out of your body, and take a moment to look at your spouse and remember that there is a reason that you married this person. And take a minute to connect with the fact that you, on that deep soul level, and like Chris said, no matter where you are now, and maybe you're just really close and you're excited because you get to start this right from the beginning, or you've been doing a great job here, or money is something that literally puts you on the brink of divorce. Wherever you're at, take a moment to be willing to step back into that space of love for yourself and love for this person that's sitting across from you, because that existed at some point.
That's right. Beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I have you here. You have a heart.
You've got the statistics and the logistics, and I bring all of the lovely emotion.
That's right. You're a little bit of country. I'm a little bit of rock and roll.
There you go.
You're like, yeah, kind of. I was a little bit more country in Idaho, when I lived there for a few years.
I think you're a little more country.
That might be.
I'll stay in France. Thanks.
That's right. There's no cool music out of France.
Oh, yes, there is.
Oh. So anyway, so cash flow is freedom, right? We want to have that freedom. And the great thing is, like, I want to make sure that you guys do this. Because remember, this is just falls on deaf ears. If this, you just said, hey, this is fun, great, good job, guys, and then you don't do anything with this, it really just doesn't do much. Like, I really want to make sure you guys see that you really take this and apply it. So in the next 7 days, I want you to make sure you set this time with your spouse.
Okay, so we're stopping to draw attention. You are receiving homework right now.
That's right.
Okay, so homework is?
Next 7 days, get together with your spouse and do this little, ask the 3 questions thing, do like the date night or whatever it might be, quiet time, time where you can just be alone and talk about what's going on. Don't even worry about bringing out the numbers. Don't worry about that yet.
Nope.
Just talk about how you understand money, how you see money, fears, concerns, all that kind of stuff. Talk about the words you want to start using.
Yes.
And how you're going to move forward.
Yeah. And
then,
if this is really different to use this kind of language, just have, print off on a sheet of paper, write down on a sheet of paper, keep it in between you, on the table. That way it's easy to refer to.
Easy reference, right?
Yes.
And that's why you may want to watch this. You may want to pick out certain parts of this. Say, hey, this is what I want you to watch. Whatever, you might have them watch it before your night, so it's more, more powerful, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we want you to do. And so we really want you to do that. And like I said, you want to create, for you to start creating freedom, this is the first part. I can teach you all the cash flow strategies in the world and rock your world, but if you can't get this on the same page as your spouse, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And
so I want to make sure that we keep doing that, right?
Yes.
And so one thing I want to offer to you guys is what's called the Wealth Accelerator Group. So
WAG.
The WAG. As you can see there, moneyripples.com/WAG. This group is actually a good, easy way for you guys to work together. And so let's say you do that meeting, you're like, great, now what? How do we start fixing this? How can I start doing, finding and fixing those money leaks? How, like as you said earlier, like how do you take $100,000 and get $50,000 out of that? What happened there? No, he didn't gamble it. It was guaranteed $50,000 a year, right? Nothing crazy. How do we make that happen? How do we pay off our debt faster? How do we save on taxes? And if we want to start investing, how do we do that? How do we protect ourselves more so we have more peace of mind? And essentially get everything in order from an abundant perspective, not some scarce, don't ever live, only live off rice and beans type of perspective. This is completely the opposite of that, right? It's more from an abundant state, and especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're an investor, this is big because this is exactly the perspective you need.
It is.
And so we actually do this it's online education. There's even Facebook groups. So the cool thing is you have your own private Facebook group where you can ask me questions, you can ask the group questions, you can start connecting with other people like-minded that you say, hey, maybe we can create something here that could create more wealth for us, create an opportunity or something. All kinds of opportunities that way, right? There's also monthly calls that I do with all my clients that you're a part of as well. So there's live calls. And sometimes occasionally a webinar, but usually calls. We've also got things like, as a bonus, we have things like, I can't remember. Oh yeah, the curriculum. Forgot. So the curriculum actually basically you get all the education that all my clients get when they work with me one-on-one, but you get all that education. So all the stuff that I teach people is all there. So I mean, tons of things you can listen to and work through step by step, little by little. So it's not this big nebulous thing to work on. You say, great, here's step 1. This is what we do. Step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
Here's the coolest part. For
the coolest part.
For this, it's only $27 a month for 6 months.
Beautiful. So they get to be part of your program for 6 months, get access to all of the education, all the curriculum, and all of the online community and the phone calls that you do for $27.
For $27 a month. That's it. And you know what's even cooler? The bonus. As cheesy commercial people say, oh wait, there's more. Right? On top of that too, for anybody who does sign up within this next week, because I'm filling seats for my next Wealth Empowerment Intensive event coming up. At this Wealth Empowerment Intensive, I'm actually going, so you're one-on-one, you both get tickets to this event, and it's all bonused in as part of this. So even though these tickets sell for $500 a couple, it's $500 a couple to come to this event. I'm actually going in the hole to have you guys come and get that first step, so you can actually kickstart some of this. Because this is huge. So the things that we've given you today, we always like to make sure that we're giving you valid, like real good value, stuff. Meat and potatoes. This is the core of it. These are the things that we do with our clients. So we're not giving you fluff stuff. We're not giving you peripheral. We're getting into the heart of it. Now, what Chris has just offered you is phenomenal. His WAG program does give you this ongoing support. With 6 months, you can make very legitimate change and shift in the way that you're thinking and talking about money, plus not just about the mindset, but getting these tips and tools and actual logistics from Chris. And the fact that you're also offering him the Wealth Empowerment Intensive is amazing. I love like big impetus, like, just, blow it up. So this is a great way to kick that off. Bring you and your spouse with this price too, regardless of whether you're in state or out of state, where you're at in the country. Where this is being held in Salt Lake City. In Salt Lake City, yep. It's on October 16th and 17th.
Exactly. We've got a new track system, so if you fly into the airport, you can take tracks.
Right there.
And get right there. This is amazing.
And even cooler than that too. I mean, that's awesome too. You can just get right there. But I mean, this is something that I can guarantee the next 30 days you will make the entire 6-month membership back even before you pay it.
Yeah.
Like this is something that's powerful. Many people walk away from that saying, "Oh my gosh, I just found $5,000." I had somebody walk away and said, "I just found another $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and I haven't even worked with you." I mean, that's awesome. And people you'd be able to have their spouse be like, "I get it. Like I understand now. Like this makes sense because it's all common sense, and it's completely against all the stuff that you've been taught, where money is hard and money is thing. It's simple. It's fun. If you couldn't tell, we have a little bit of fun, don't we, Melissa?
We do. We have a lot of fun. And here's the thing: is this may be out of your comfort zone. It may be out of your current money thinking. To think about, putting this in and earning your money back from the investment that you get. But if you can identify during this, if you can identify the fact that you're living on one or maybe your side of the pendulum of scarcity, whether you're a saver or a spender, or maybe you're swinging back and forth, trust us that when he says this is not a gimmick. We don't like sounding like infomercials. Chris is offering you amazing value, but it is the opportunity that when you invest in shifting your perspective and getting the right tools in, from somebody who's lived it, done it, and is been able to perpetuate that with many, 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 many clients. This is a tremendous opportunity.
And there's only 19 seats left, too. 19 seats, that's it, because I like to keep it small, about 30 people.
And this is only good until next Wednesday. So if you're watching this recording, today is September 10th, 2014, which means that you've got until September 17th.
That's right.
2014 to do this. Take this recording, watch it with your spouse if you haven't, or, create it as a surprise getaway. You can come to the Wealth Empowerment Intensive and then go and stay at a beautiful B&B afterwards and have your second, because in the next week you're going to be having your first meeting, and then with this. Now, what days is the Wealth Empowerment Group?
It's the evening of October 16th and all day the 17th. So it's just a Thursday evening and then a Friday day.
Great. Then you've got all weekend to stay in B&B.
Yep.
If you want any suggestions, call me. I'll hook you up.
Call me. And you got some good suggestions too. I've seen awesome. Oh yeah, love Midway.
Yes, he's taken
Park
my
City,
suggestions.
Beautiful that time of year.
Food, bed and breakfast. If you need suggestions anywhere, give me a call. But that is getting off topic. So the funny thing is that Chris and I, the reason we started doing seminars is that we approach the way that we work with our clients very similarly. We have really complementary platforms.
Yeah, especially with Be Your Business Owner. Right?
Yep, be your own business owner. I'm working with entrepreneurs, and we're opening up that mindset a lot like how we've been talking today about money in your marriage. We're talking in your business about money, about systems, about your mindset, about vision, and putting you on a really solid platform of operations and a turnkey system that gets you leveraging wherever you're at, whether you've got lots of capital or not, whether you're starting out, you're solopreneur or you're a mid-sized business, and being able to accelerate that. BeYourOwnBusinessOwner.com is where you can learn more about that. And that is one of the personal development programs that exists in my company, which is LiveEnlightened.com. And that is all about this living life deliciously and fully and living life whole. And so the funny thing is that, Chris comes with his WAG program, and same thing is that I have my programs that I run, and I find that sometimes people can take the big intensives and sometimes not. And there are benefits to having kind of that slow feed of new information and engagement. And so I have a membership program as well. And you can see that when you go to liveenlightened.com. And
definitely check it out.
Very similar to Chris's WAG program. But what we do in this is that the work that I do is on the foundation of the 4 bodies. So bringing into alignment and harnessing the power of the spiritual, the intellectual, the emotional, and the physical for divine manifestation to manifest the vision and live the life of your dreams. So that as well is $27 a month. You get access to me and to the online community, and we have those regular webinars and phone calls where you're getting all, not just, but across all of my different programs, we're getting in and we're giving you all of that information.
That's
so
awesome.
We're so excited that you've been online with us today. If you have questions, you can go back to the Facebook groups. You can find us both on social media. And when you go to moneyripples.com, you can go to BeYourOwnBusinessOwner.com or LiveEnlightened.com and contact us both there. Ta-da!
Awesome.
But we love the opportunity to talk to you. And as we do these seminars, we want to know what you want. And use this as another opportunity. Is there a particular topic about money or business or mindset or well-being that you want to discuss? Let us know. We'll cater those to you.
Isn't that awesome? I love that.
I do too, because this is fun and we love being able to serve you in this way. So
absolutely.
Take this, apply it to your lives. It's not going to do you any good if you listen to this and it's like, oh yeah, that's nice, and you just leave it. Take the tips and tools, apply them, print off the language list and put it on your fridge, put it as the background on your phone. I suggest just making that the list of new words that you're adopting. Don't worry about the old words. You knew what they were. You don't need a constant reminder of them. Just print those new ones and sit down and have this money conversation with your spouse. So,
you know, one more gift. We'll actually send these slides to you. All the you register for this, we'll send you the slides so that you can just print off them on your fridge. So you don't have to write them out. And now, if your handwriting is better than my typing, awesome. Don't do that. But yeah, we'll give you to print this out so you can refer back to it again and again. Sound good?
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic.
All right, guys.
So thank you for taking the time. I know that we went longer than the hour, but we just, you know, we go where it takes us. So
we love you.
We do love you. Have an amazing day, and we hope to be hearing from you before a week is out so that we can give you all of these great bonuses.
All right, see you guys.
Have an abundant day.